Hello, my dear students of class 12 of IPS. Good morning to all of you. I hope all of you are safe and sound, fit and fine by the grace of God in the kind company of your parents. Today, we shall proceed further in our academic pursuit of learning poetry. The next poem of your course is Keeping Quiet. This poem has been composed by Pablo Neruda, the poet who is talking about a philosophy in this poem. The poet talks about the necessity of quiet introspection and creating the mutual understanding among the human beings. Quiet introspection refers to a peaceful examination of one's thoughts, feelings, and the reasons for doing something in a particular manner. This quiet introspection, according to the poet, provides us a golden opportunity to have calm reflection and to hear the voice of our conscience. Poet, in other words, we can say, has tried to signify the significance of stillness and silence in this poem. The poet is of the opinion that most of our problems or the misfortunes are because of non-stop activities or because of rush or doing the things in a hurry. So in other words, this poem is signifying the significance of rest. Poet is of the opinion that when we have a little rest, we have the golden chance to examine our wrongdoing and start our activities again by reshaping them, by redesigning them in a better, fresh, and purposeful manner. In this poem, the poet has spoken about the three types of wars, and he has given a warning to the warmongers, those who prepare for the wars. He has told them that after the war, victory will be there, but unfortunately, none will be left to celebrate the victory. And that victory without survivors would be meaningless and useless. The poet is also having the deep conviction that most of the problems of the man, most of the evils of the man, or the misfortune of the man are only because of not taking a short rest or not having the quiet introspection. So this is a philosophical poem, my dear students. In this poem, the poet has used the technique of personification in order to illustrate his idea. And this poem is without rhyme or without meter. But in this poem, there is variation in the length of the stanzas. Some stanzas are of 2 lines, some of 3 lines, some of 4, and some of even 7 or 11 lines. This length in the stanzas or this variation indicates shift in thought of the poet. Let us see the details of this poem. Opening part of the poem, poet is asking the entire world that he is going to count 12, and in the meantime, in this short moment, they should try to have stillness and silence. In the next stanza, which starts, "For once on the face of the earth," the poet speaks not to speak in any language, because language is responsible for the hot exchange of words, for the hot debates, unwanted arguments. And these all unwanted arguments, hot debates, exchange of hot words are responsible in this world for disputes, quarrels, and the wars. So poet is asking the people of the world to have stillness and silence, not to speak in any language, and not to move the arms Arms has been used in two different meanings. Movement of the arms refers to the weaponry also, and it also means the body parts. So poet wants to say that the movement of the arms has been responsible for damage and destruction in the world. In the next stanza, which starts, it would be an exotic movement. The poet calls this quiet introspection an exotic moment. Actually, exotic word is used for the colorful ideas, colorful unique birds or the animals which we get from other countries because of their colorfulness or because of their unusualness. So the poet has called this quiet introspection an exotic moment, because for the first time entire world would be in the pin drop silence. And when this world would be in the pin drop silence, it will be a bonding for the entire humanity. And this will be no doubt a strange situation, because it will be for the first time when the entire world will have pin drop silence. And in that pin drop silence, poet is the opinion that there will be no sound of engines or machines. This strangeness which will be generated by this exotic movement, this would be very fascinating, unusual moment, and all will be together. So this togetherness, or the feeling of this togetherness, poet wants to say, will generate mutual understanding. It will expel the misunderstanding, and people will come to know about their brothers. They sit together. No doubt this will be a strange moment, but poet is of the opinion that it will generate the feeling of togetherness, and this will lead the human beings to mutual understanding. In the next poem, in the next stanza, it starts with fishermen in the cold sea. The poet is talking about violence and self-torture in the world. Poet is telling that in the polar region, the fishermen hunt the whales in the large scale, not for the purpose of survival, but for the greed. Poet wants to say that nature has given us everything to satisfy our basic needs. But poet wants to say with sorry that nature cannot provide or cannot look after the greed of the man. So poet is of the opinion that during this stillness and silence, or during this keeping quiet, the fishermen in the polar region will stop their activity of hunting the whales, the violence will stand still, and the salt makers or the gatherers, they are, because of the greed, they are having hard hands. So the poet is telling that they will also have a little chance to look at their hard hands. In the next stanza, which starts with those who prepare the wars, poet has mentioned three types of wars. Green war, that is a war against environment. A large scale of destruction of forest is there. Poet is talking about that environment is being damaged. He points out that war with fire and war with poisonous gas. All these three types of wars are there. Warmongers are there. And he is giving them a warning that after the war, victory will be there. But unfortunately, nobody would be there to celebrate that victory. So poet wants to tell them that without celebration or without survivals, the victory will be meaningless and useless. So in place of indulging in war or preparing for the wars, poet has asked the warmongers to wear the beautiful dress, walk in the company of the brothers in the shade of the trees, doing nothing. Doing nothing is important here, because by doing nothing, poet wants to say that to have stillness and silence. And this stillness and silence, according to the poet, will provide the opportunity to man to hear the voice of the conscience. And in this way, there will be a mutual understanding. In the next stanza, which is the longest stanza of this poem, which starts with what I want should not be confused. In this stanza, the poet is making very clear that the word stillness does not stand for death or does not stand for the total suspension of the activities. He wants to say that stillness in this poem has been used to keep the human beings away from damaging, destroying, and hostile activities. So he's telling that his opinion should be very clear. His opinion is very clear. He wants to say that he has no association with the death. He has no link with this total inactivity. He is telling that people, most of the people in this world, they have a single-mindedness. The single-mindedness is that when it is asked from the people that what do we mean by life, the answer they give, that answer is being protested by the poet. People say that moving is the main feature of life. To remain busy all the 24 hours is the meaning of life. Poet is telling no. All the time to be busy or moving all the time is not life. According to the poet, rest is also necessary in life. Because this short rest which we take provides us the golden chance to examine our wrongdoings, to enable us to start our activity again in a fresh, better and purposeful manner. The poet has spoken that the man has vast knowledge about his external world. He knows a lot about the world which is around him. But unfortunately this is ironical, that unfortunately this man doesn't know about his inner self. It means the man has not been able to hear the voice of his conscience, and therefore he doesn't understand himself. Poet speaks that common man in this world is suffering from a sadness. A kind of sadness is there. And the poet points out that two reasons are there for this sadness. First reason is that man is totally ignorant about his inner self. So inner ignorance, according to the poet, is the first cause of the sadness of the man. And the second cause he points out is the constant fear of death. Man is having the fear of death constantly. So these two factors are responsible for the sadness of the man. And poet has suggested the remedy also. He tells that huge silence. Huge silence means the silence in the entire world for a few moments. That is the stillness and silence. This stillness and silence will explain to the man or will interpret to the man the solution of this sadness. In the next stanza, by using personification, poet illustrates the idea that under the apparent stillness, there can be life. He has given the example of the earth. He points out that when it is night, when entire humanity is sleeping, when there is a pin drop silence in the world, it appears that on this earth, everything is dead. But next day morning, we find as it is, earth is alive. Or this stanza can be explained in different manner also. That when it is the winter season, when the earth is completely frozen, when the activity on earth is totally suspended, it appears that earth is dead. But in the next spring season, earth is again full of life, with beauties, with vigor, with vitality. So the poet wants to say that to understand our suffering, our sorrow, our sadness, it is the necessity of having quiet introspection. So he is asking the people that now he is going to count 12, and within this short period, they should try to have silence and stillness. This is all about your third poem, my dear students. Some of the questions have been given in your home assignment. Try to answer those questions in your well-maintained, fair notebook. Thank you very much.